Today we're going to talk about what it takes and what you can expect if you want to become a listing agent and sell bank REO foreclosures. Now there is a lot of misinformation out there. Once again, another subject where so-called guru types are giving you all these do's and don'ts and what you should do and all this kind of stuff about how you can get REO listings. None of them are touching on the serious, big items that you need to be aware of. In this video, you're going to learn those. And I'm going to start out by giving you two huge tips. First, you should never ever be contacting an asset management company or asset managers directly to get business. I've seen this in a lot of videos, and a lot of people out there saying be very aggressive. This is the way you get business. That's not true, folks. Don't do it. You're guaranteed to not get business, probably get put on the DNU list, the do not use list, which every company has them. But no asset manager wants to be hounded by an agent wanting business. That's not the way to get the business. Secondly, you should never be paying another agent or an REO group or anyone out there to train or mentor or teach you how to get REO business, because they can't do it. You can learn enough online without paying someone, because none of these people out there that have memberships or want you to pay them can guarantee or can get you in the business. That's not the way it works. And you're going to learn more, hopefully, in this video about truth and facts about becoming an agent and what you can expect, because it's not all a bed of roses. Trust me, times have changed and the business has changed. Hopefully you're going to get a lot out of this. So if you can make it to the end of the video, I'm going to give you another humongous tip that I've seen no one mention at all, but it's an actual fact and it's the way the business is turning. So make sure and stay tuned to the end. Let me give you a little background of my REO experience. I've got over 20 years listing bank foreclosures. I've got well over 2,000 foreclosures sold in my career. And at one point in time, I've worked for every major bank or loan servicer in the country. I go so far back that I worked with Countrywide, Option One, IndyMac, Wilshire, back in the days, years ago. None of those companies are even around anymore. We all know Countrywide changed and went to Bank of America. So I've been in business a long, long time. I was also members of the REO MAC and the NRBA, and I was the Florida Master Broker for the NRBA. Both these organizations are very, very difficult to get into, but I'm not members anymore because honestly, unless you just want to travel the country and spend a bunch of money, you don't really need to be in these organizations, okay? So let's talk about some common things agents think about when it comes to listing foreclosures. First, it's not profitable to sell REOs. Now, to me, this is probably 50-50 true. What a lot of people don't understand is that banks generally have a minimum commission amount. Let's say on average that's $1,000. So if they're paying 3% commission and the price of the home does not equal when it's sold the $1,000, then the minimum the agent's going to receive is $1,000. If you're in a city where you have a lot of low-income houses and properties, say somewhere like Detroit or Cleveland, then honestly, it's not easy to run an REO department when you're making $1,000 per property. If you have staff, you have runners, you have admin, you have payroll, you have marketing, you're paying all these fees out there, it's hard to run a business. I have a very good friend of mine that gave up his REO business in one of these cities because his portfolio was made of all cheap properties and it just was not profitable in the end for him and wasn't worth the aggravation. Next, you have to know somebody to get REO listings. That's not true anymore. That doesn't matter at all. It's not like it used to be years ago. REO sellers already have enough listing agents. Honestly, that's almost really true. As we're going to discuss in this video, it's not easy to get in with a lot of these bigger companies. They are on lockdown. Their databases aren't open to new agents. So that's a pretty true statement to me in a lot of ways. Banks only give listings to experienced REO agents. That's not true. I see in my market all the time some agent I've never even heard of that's selling a foreclosure. You can get in and you can get listings without having experience. Now, having experience is important, but it's not the overall biggest factor when it comes to being an REO agent. Banks are hard to deal with. Come on, it's real estate. They're no harder to deal with than any other seller, okay? And honestly, to me, they're sometimes easier because everything they do is a procedure. It's set in writing. They have, instructions. It's not like dealing with a homeowner or a seller with, that has emotional ties to it, where there's no rules or regulations. Banks are different. They are all structured. So in my opinion, sometimes it's a lot easier to deal with banks than it is regular homeowners. You have to spend your own money to maintain the REO properties. Now, a lot of these videos are going to try to tell you that this is not true anymore, that the banks now handle it on their own. That's 50-50 true. A lot of the bigger corporations, a lot of the bigger banks do have third-party companies that handle all the utilities, all the repairs, and they take that off the broker's hands. Those are the clients you really want. Handling repairs, handling expenses is a pain in the rear end, and it's one of the biggest aggravations to being an REO broker. But let me tell you, there's a ton of companies out there where you still have to put up your own money. I just went through this last month with a property where I had to shell out $3,700. Trash out, yard, I even had to pay a small lien off for the bank. So you have to do that. It's part of the business. You need money in your account to be able to do this. Unless you get very fortunate and find a company that handles it on their own, be prepared to shell out money out of your pocket and fight to get reimbursed. REO properties are mostly in bad areas and bad condition. So what? I mean, unless we're talking about the $1,000 minimums and that's mostly in your area, if that's the case, you don't want no part of being an REO broker. But I get REOs all the time. Now, I'm on the Gulf Coast, so I get beach properties, I get pieces of junk, I get $10,000 junk, I get $100,000. I just sold one for $550,000 in one of the best areas in my area. So that's not necessarily true. You get them all walks of life when it comes to foreclosure properties. But remember one thing. I've heard someone say, well, if you don't like the property, you can just turn it down. If you turn down assignments, you're going to get blackballed. You're going to get kicked out of their systems. Don't ever turn down a property unless it's too hard or too far from you. But if you consistently turn down properties because they're cheaper in bad areas, you're going to lose business. It takes years to get in the REO. I don't agree with that. You can get lucky, as we're going to talk about applying for different companies. You can get lucky somehow. They could pick you. There's no rhyme or reason. So I don't agree that it takes years to get an REO. Not anymore. You need to do a lot of free BPOs to get REO listings. This is something that everybody talks about that really drives me nuts. You should not be doing free BPOs. If you are, then you're either not using your brain or you just got way too much money, because doing free BPOs in today's market will put you in the poorhouse. There's only one company I really know that really advocates doing free BPOs to get business, and you hardly ever get business from it. Now, once you sign up for a lot of these BPO companies, you will see where a lot of them will have BPOs. They'll offer a bunch of different agents, either at a fee, or they'll try to get you to do it for free and promise you the listing if you get it. There's where you have to make your own decision. Is it worth it? My advice is do some research on the company and see what other agents say. See if they actually give listings or not. But doing free BPOs is not the way, in my opinion, to get REO listings. Let's go over some of the popular misconceptions when it comes to listing bank foreclosures. I got most of these misconceptions from another video on YouTube, and I thought they would be really good to go over, and let me give you my opinion, because I felt like most of the information being given was incorrect. So it's inexpensive and relatively easy to get started. That's not true. Number one, it's not easy to get started. Getting your foot in the door is not easy. If it was easy, then a lot more agents would be doing it. And inexpensive, that's false. If you get a client where you have to pay all the stuff up front, like the trash out, re-keys, yard cuts, utilities, then it could be very expensive to get started. You don't have to prospect. I disagree with this, because you're prospecting for clients all the time, and you're prospecting for cash investor buyers. Every REO broker wants a ton of cash investors with them, because your number one goal as an REO broker is to sell that property yourself. And if you're familiar with the business, then most people know that listing agents for banks take a huge cut. We generally pay a huge referral fee. So prospecting, you're always prospecting, no matter what you're selling in real estate. Very few competitors. That's another stupid statement. There's more competitors nowadays than there is forever, because there's so many agents, and listings are so competitive, a lot of agents feel getting into REO is their ticket to riches, So there are a ton of competitors. No evenings, weekends, or holidays. This is another really, really dumb statement. It's real estate, folks. You're working weekends, you're working evenings, holidays. I mean, that's just crazy. Now, granted, are most of your REO clients working, 8 to 5, Monday through Friday? Yes. Or they're working schedules associated with what part of the country and what time zone, they're working. Like in California, you might have asset managers that work the East Coast, so their hours are different to, accommodate the East Coast agents. But you're always working. I mean, it's real estate. That's just stupid. No drama, since every transaction is a business decision. Once again, it's real estate. There's always drama. In my opinion, this is one of the biggest issues with real estate in general, that people don't treat it as a business decision where it should be. But there's always drama. You're selling real estate, okay? You're dealing with agents and buyers that either don't know a lot or think they know a lot. Drama is a part of the business. And there's probably more drama, honestly, being an REO broker. Low overhead. Once again, if you're by yourself and you have one property and the seller handles all the utilities and maintenance and all those fees, then yeah, you really don't have any overhead. But if you're running a profitable and large REO department, you have a ton of overhead. It was one of my biggest issues and one of the things that drove me nuts, having 10 plus employees. I mean, my payroll was more than most agents make in a month. It was ridiculous, So that's stupid, because the overhead can be huge. Stable and predictable production regardless of market conditions. Well, I wouldn't say regardless of market conditions, but that's the whole thing about being an REO broker, is you want clients, and you want those clients to be, loyal and to be with you for a long time and just get all their properties. Everything they have, you want them. That's why having more REO clients is better, because you're ensured that you're going to get more properties. A small number of clients with a high number of transactions. That's one thing I kind of do agree with, because, if you're one of the Fannie Mae brokers, then you're getting a ton of transactions from Fannie Mae. So I agree with that statement. Majority of REO work can be delegated. Once again, I actually do agree with this. And it's not like any other part of real estate, because a lot of real estate is delegated. That's what teams are for. But a lot of the REO work, yes, doing BPOs, doing data entry, billing, all that stuff can be delegated. When I was running my REO shop, I had a accountant, basically, a full-time, billing specialist. I had admins. I had, nothing but, somebody that did BPOs. I had somebody that did nothing but enter and change MLS listings and price changes. So, yes, a lot of the work can be delegated. REO sellers have financial and legal motivation to sell. That's BS, all right? REO sellers are not any more motivated than a lot of your, typical sellers nowadays. It's times have changed. It's not like it used to be, but they're not motivated. There is no motivation. That's just not true. Easy to sell, since they're in high demand and everybody wants a bargain. This is one of the things I do love about foreclosures is foreclosures is like selling legal drugs. Everybody wants one, because everybody wants a deal. People think foreclosure means deal. That's the first thing most of the general public will think when they think of buying a foreclosure. They're thinking, I'm getting some kind of deal. So there is a high demand for them. Right now, with there being limited REO inventory, the demand is nuts. So I do agree with that statement. All right, I want to discuss a couple negatives, at least in my opinion, when it comes to being a listing broker for banks. One of them we've already talked about, and that's reimbursements. Reimbursements are just simply a pain in the rear end. It's part of the business. You've got to do them. If you don't do them, you will not get reimbursed. Number two, and this is something I've heard no one mention, is the fact that you're going to pay a referral fee. Now, not every corporate seller, and one in particular I can think of off the top of my head is Wells Fargo or Premier Assets, PAS. They do not charge a referral fee. Most of your corporate sellers, or the companies that we, the agents work for, are going to charge you a referral fee to sell their property. So you might get 3%. For instance, let me give you this example. One of my best clients charges 35%. They pay 3% to the selling agent. They pay 3% to me, the listing agent, but they take a 35% referral fee. So where does that referral fee go? Well, it goes to a company that is a brokerage company that basically they own. So it's a way for them just to recruit money from the agents, and the fact that they know the agents have no choice but to pay it. And it's something that's been going on for years and years and years. Back in the days when Fannie Mae used to outsource a lot of their properties, there were companies like Chrisley Asset Management, Executive Management, IAS, Integrated Asset Management. All those companies, they got paid from referral fees from the broker. So they would charge a 6% commission, and they would collect 1% for their fee. So that's how they got paid. So it's part of the business. Us brokers have been doing it a long time. We're used to it. So anytime you have a client, number one, that does their own utilities, their own repairs where you don't have to pay them, that's a check mark. That's a huge bonus. Number two is if they don't charge a referral fee, that's a huge bonus, because it's something you got to look at. I mean, a lot of times when you have a small property and you have to pay that referral fee and it's $300 or $400 and it takes a big chunk of your check, well, it sucks. And that's one of the negatives. That's another reason why a lot of the brokers, when they're doing $1,000 minimums, can't survive in this referral fees. So number two negative is going to be that you're more than likely going to have to pay a referral fee out of your pocket at the end of the day when you close the property. Another thing that a lot of people don't talk about, but you need to know it if you want to sell foreclosures, is the fact that normally you're going to be given a 90-day, maybe 120-day listing agreement, okay? 90 days, 120 days, 3 to 4 months. That's generally tops. Generally, you won't get them one higher than that. You might, but it's just not the norm. It's not the norm for the big companies. So what happens, though, even though the client might be very loyal to you and give you properties, eventually their set of rules and their procedures and stuff are going to kick in. And guess what? If that property doesn't sell, say after the first 90 days, they give you another extension. So now you've got 6 months. If that property doesn't sell, guess what? They transfer it to another agent. Now, you've got a ton of time, a ton of money, employees, you've paid for all the stuff, or you've got your gas money, visiting the property, doing all the work. You've got a lot of time and effort involved in the property. And guess what happens? You never get to recoup that money because it sells. And the worst part, typically you're going to have expenses out there. So you spent money on the property to do things to it, to get the grass cut, to have it trashed out. You didn't get to sell it, and now you got to fight to get your expenses back. That's probably one of the things that drives me nuts about, in the business. There's certain clients where it's not really a problem, but if you want to be in the business, be prepared to have a property transferred. It sucks, but it happens. Okay, before I start talking about really how to get the business and what you should be doing to try to get your foot in the door, I want to discuss something really quick that I saw in a video last night that is just bad information. And that's concerning being a member of the two largest REO organizations in the country. And that is the NRBA, or the National REO Brokers Association, and REO MAC. Now, REO MAC just recently changed their name. They're now called the National Association of Default Professionals. But these two organizations, number one, are extremely hard to get into. You can't just go on their website, sign up, and poof, you're a member. So it takes a lot to even get in the organizations. Number two, they're not cheap. They're costly. They're going to cost you money. You're going to have to spend money with no guarantee you can ever get the business. Now, I'm not a member anymore, and I haven't been in years. Why? Because it's not necessary. Times have changed. It's not like it used to be. And one of the comments that this YouTuber made was about traveling and going to all these conferences, rubbing elbows with asset managers, getting in front of them, getting to know them, and you'll get business that much faster. Now, that's true, but that's not the way it is anymore. Years ago, that's why we all went. We all spent tens of thousands of dollars traveling, going to REO MAC conferences, going to Palm Springs, going to Denver, our NRBA conferences. We all did that because that's how you did. That's how you got the business and you got it faster. Nowadays, times have changed. You got to realize most of these companies, they don't even allow their asset managers to even go to these conferences. They're not allowed, okay? They are banned from attending. Why? Because agents hound them. Agents will track them down in the bathroom. It's ridiculous. But you do not need to be a member of these organizations to get business. It's just flat out not true. Is it a benefit? Sure. It could be. But just remember, don't think that because you can't join, you can't get REO listings. That's absolutely false and bad information. Okay, I'm going to drop a quick knowledge bomb for you. that no one mentions this either in any of the videos I've watched. If you're going to be an REO broker and listing agent, you're going to have to supply a bunch of documentation. One of the biggest things you're going to have to prove to the sellers to get acceptance is your E&O insurance policy. You're going to be required to carry at least $1 million worth of coverage. That's not a big issue because most of us brokers already do that. I mean, I do. Any other brokerage, any major brokerage carries at least that much. But just be prepared, have that ready, because you're going to have to prove you've got at least $1 million worth of coverage on your E&O insurance to get REO listings. Okay, the next thing let's talk about, and the most important probably that everybody wants to know and wants to hear about, is how do I get listings? Well, the biggest thing and number one thing you need to do is sign up for their platforms. I'm going to show you several of the biggest in the country that are a must. No matter what you do next, sign up for these, and they're all free. You should not be paying anything at this point. Don't pay anything for membership platforms, none of that stuff. Even when they tell you they'll get you in front of more asset managers, don't do it unless you have properties. These are all free, but let's go over a few of them real quick. I will have a list of all these websites here at the end, so you don't have to worry about writing them down right now. I'm going to go through these kind of quickly just to save some time, but the first site you want to sign up for is Equator. Equator is one of the older sites, and it has a lot, and I mean a lot, of REO sellers on it. Very important site. Make sure you sign up with these guys first. Next, in my opinion, is going to be Accelerus. They have a top 5 mortgage servicer in the country that uses this platform, so make sure you sign up with these guys. Next is going to be Pyramid Platform. It's just another site. Make sure, get your info, your resume, whatever they need to get you in their database. Sign up with these guys. Res.net. Now, Res.net to me is probably one of the better ones too, especially for newbies or people with less experience, because there are a lot of smaller companies that use ResNet, and they're liable to utilize an agent maybe that didn't have the experience of some other agents. So, good site. Make sure you sign up with these guys, get your info in their database. Another really good one that not a lot of people know about or talk about is VRM. VRM sells VA foreclosures. Great site to have your information in their database. You never know when they might open up another slot or get another account, but very good client to get your info in their database. Another one's LRES. Same thing, just sign up with them, get your info in there, because you never know when these guys might have a property in your area and they might pick you or choose you just because you might be one of the few agents that have actually submitted your resume and actually applied in their system. Okay, after you signed up for all these websites, the next thing that I would suggest you look at doing is actually taking some REO certification training courses. Now, there's not a lot of these out there, but there are a few different programs that you should probably look into taking that are not that expensive and won't take a whole lot of your time. But the first one's from the National Association of Default Professionals, and they have a residential default pro certification program. And it's 3 courses, and the first 2 courses you can take online, and the third one you actually have to go in person to their conference. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that, but here's 2 courses that's being offered by one of the largest organizations in the industry, so I suggest taking those for sure. Any course you can find that's put on by a REO organization, I would look at taking. If it's an individual agent, I would never pay the money for that. No way. Now, some courses out there right now are being offered by former asset managers. I don't really have a huge opinion, yay or nay on those courses. I've never took one, but at least asset managers have a background. They know a lot better than most agents, so maybe that's something you can look into, but don't count on it helping you get business. The only ones I suggest that actually can help you are these that are offered by the bigger REO organizations. Okay, the last thing I want to discuss, and I think this is really important and no one talks about it, it's what we refer to as being a diverse supplier. And this is going to affect some of the bigger clients like your GSEs and HUD, but it's really important. And if you qualify as a diverse supplier, it's really going to give you a leg up on a lot of other agents. It just is. It's a fact. It's been going on for years in the business, but it's getting even more and more important, especially if you want to get in with some of the bigger clients that hold a lot more inventory. So let's take a look at what diverse supplier means according to Fannie Mae. Okay, we are now on FannieMae.com, and the biggest thing I want everyone to remember or get out of this is that the agent or broker trying to sign up does not have to be third-party certified, okay? And that's huge. These companies will allow, like you see here, they allow the agent broker to self-certify themselves by filling out this very simple one-page PDF. As long as you can qualify for one of these categories, then you're in. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to get the business. Doesn't guarantee you anything. But what it does is it puts you ahead of a lot of other people, and that's a fact. This is a huge thing, as you can read from Fannie Mae's website. You know, they talk about it, how it's very important. All the big giant companies, they're all going to this. So I think one of the things that really can affect, you know, an agent getting listings here in the future is going to be, can you qualify as a diverse supplier? If you can, great. It's just a huge bonus. You know, it's just a huge check mark, okay? And that's what it is. Now, a lot of companies won't have this form, but on every single REO application you fill out, they're going to ask you if you can fit the bill for any of these categories. Okay, they're going to ask you to check a box on the application. So it is there. It is something that no one talks about, and I'm not seeing anyone kind of explain to agents, hey, if you can qualify for just one of these categories right here, then that is a humongous positive. Folks, that's it. I hope you appreciate the video. If you have any questions, leave them below. Just remember, a lot of the stuff you see and watch on YouTube is just people making videos. It's not accurate information, okay? Like I said. And remember, the biggest thing out of this video is that do not harass and contact asset managers directly. Do not do that, okay? It's not going to work. It's going to hurt you. So if anyone's telling you, you know, go find phone numbers and call these people directly, I can promise you it will not help. All right? I appreciate it as always. Have a great day. Thanks.